In this episode, we're going to teach you how to make your item options turn into actual upgrades that can be used in-game. Hello, and welcome to how to create a Vampire Survivors clone in Godot 4. So today we're going to be doing the upgrades, which means we're going to be doing a lot of changes. This is going to be the longest episode, and I'm not going to get you to code every single little bit. But the first thing we're just going to do is make it so that we're just going to be starting with these levels and these ammos as 0 for all. So we should be good with just to start. All right. Now, the main thing that we are going to be doing is making sure that these actually have values that do something. So, first of all, I'm going to get my reference up. There we go. And we are going to be creating a new scene. And this is just going to be a standard node variable. Nothing special about it. However, this is going to kind of act as our database. So I'm just going to go to... So, I'm going to type in upgrade DB. I'm going to do a Control S to save, and I'm going to save this in utility. So there we go. And then I'm going to add a script to it, which is just going to be called database script. Now, we are going to need to effectively create our database. So before we do that, I'm just going to create a couple constants. Constants is they're just variables that don't change. So if you have, let's say, a file path that you want to take, then there's a good way of doing it. So icon path equals, and then I can just go into my textures and into, let's go, my items, and you can see where all of my upgrades are and whatnot. So icon path, I'm just going to get the file path from there, copy and paste it after triple clicking, and we'll do a constant weapon path equals effectively the same thing. It's just that we're going to be getting the weapon icons into this, and this is just to change the image later on. Now, for our actual database, this is all going to be in a constant called upgrades, and this is going to be a dictionary objects. A dictionary is defined by curly brackets. So I want you to think of upgrade as a filing cabinet, and the first name is, let's say, a folder that contains papers with data. So we're going to make we're going to call, let's say, our folder iSpear1, and this is going to have papers in it, which are going to provide us data. So first of all, we're going to have an icon, and this is just going to be called weapon path because it's going to be iSpear1, which means we want to do a weapon path, and then we're going to do the iSpear PNG. So iSpear.png. And then we're just going to add a comma. We're going to have a display name, which is going to be iSpear. We're going to have details. So this is just going to be details, and we're just going to write a description of what we want the ice spear to be. So this will be a spear of ice is thrown at a random enemy. We'll then have a level, and this is just going to be level 1. And we're going to have prerequisites. This is going to be determining what actually shows. So prerequisite, and this is just going to be a empty array. And then we're just going to have the type, which is going to be type dot weapon. So I'm going to add 2 more for the moment, but I'm not going to get you to type out every single little upgrade. There's going to be a pastebin in that, which we're going to refer to at the moment, but we're going to be adding 2 more of these upgrades. One is going to be called iSpear2, and I just want this to indicate the prerequisite. So we want to create the functions that allow for the upgrade system to work. So we're just going to be starting with free upgrades to test our base functionality. So we're going to be getting the second upgrade of Ice Spear 2, so we're going to be doing an additional Ice Spear is thrown. It's going to be called level 2, and we are going to be having it so that, there needs to be a comma at the end of each one. And this is going to have the prerequisite of Ice Spear 1. So we only want this to show up as an option when Ice Spear 1 has already been gathered. And then we're just going to have one called food. And food is going to be an icon. It needs to be the icon path, and it's going to be this thing called chunk.png. So I'm just going to change Ice Spear. We're just going to be changing that to chunk.png to showcase there. I'm just going to rename that food. And I'm going to just type in heals you for 20 health. And the level is just going to be n/a. There's going to be no prerequisites, and this is going to be an item. Alright, so to show you what this is going to kind of do, we need to insert this information into our item options. So as you can see, we have a name, a level, a description, and an icon. So the first thing we're going to be doing is creating some onReady variables. So we're going to have label name, which is going to equal label_name. And I'm just going to copy and paste this first bit 3 times and just change the last bit. So label description equals label_description. Label level is going to equal label_level, and then we're going to just do our item icon. So item icon equals colorrect/item icon. Now I want the label name dot text to equal the that's the other thing we need to do. We need to turn our upgrade into something that can be referenced anywhere. And this is going to be done through making this a autoload variable. So to do this, project settings, autoload, click on the folder, go to utility, and we are going to use the upgrade db tscn. And we're going to open that. And we're just going to add it here. And it's going to be called upgrade db. And this is going to be a global variable, which means now when we go back, when we type in upgrade, we can reference it. So I'm going to be doing upgrade db.upgrades. And this is going to be, and so we're going to be getting the item, which is this variable right here. At the moment it's null. We're going to be inserting a value into here via the player later. But for the moment, we're just going to be getting our basic display information. So we want the label name to be the display name. We want the, I'm just going to do some copy and pasting just to make this quick. So our label description is going to be the details. The item is going to remain the same, and the label level is just going to be the level. And then the item icon is just going to be a little bit different. Item icon dot texture equals load upgrade db dot upgrades item, and then we want the icon. So we're going to load the icon in here. Now we currently don't have any item inserted, and a quick thing I'm going to do is just kind of make food the default. So if item is equal to null, we want the item to equal food. So instead of getting that sword, which is this thing at the moment, we should get food, a bit of food, a new description, and a level that says NA from our database. So if we level up now, we can see that it's completely changed to food. Now, we want to insert various items that it could be. So we have to go into our player. And the first thing we need to do is get a random item to insert when we are leveling up. So I think first of all, I'm just going to create the function get random item. And what this is going to do is we are going to have a big database list, which is going to go through all the items and add all the applicable ones to our player. So before we do anything here, I think that we need to go up and add some more variables. And I'm going to just comment this with upgrades. And I'm going to have a variable for collected underscore upgrades equals an empty array. And this is going to be every single upgrade we actually use. And then I'm going to have var upgrade options equals empty array. And that's going to be what's currently the upgrades that are currently on offer. I'm also just going to quickly add a couple more variables. Armor equals 0, var speed equals 0, var spell cooldown equals 0, var spell size equals 0, and var additional attacks equals 0. We're going to be using these later, but for the moment we're just going to be focusing on the upgrades we've actually selected and the upgrades that are currently on offer after we level up. So the next thing we are going to be doing is we are going to be doing a for loop, and this is going to be going through every single upgrade within our upgrade database's upgrade dictionary variable. So upgrades. So first, we're going to be checking if we've already selected the upgrade. So if I in collected upgrades, which is just going to be find already collected upgrades. Oh, this should be for I in. There we go. So if we've already actually chosen it, we're going to pass. Else if it's already an option to be selected, we're going to do upgrade options, and this is just going to be if the upgrade is already an option, we're going to once again pass. Now we're going to do another else if I, if upgrade database upgrades I, and then we're going to be doing type is equal to item, so which is just going to be our food at the moment. We're just not going to pick it, so don't pick food, and we're once again just going to pass. So, and then finally we're going to get to our prerequisites. So else if, so first of all we're going to check if there are any prerequisites to begin with. So if the upgrade db dot upgrades I prerequisite dot size is greater than 0, and so I'll just say check for prerequisites we are going to be doing another for loop within the prerequisites. So for n in upgrade database dot upgrades I dot pre, and then we'll do prerequisite. So we're just going to be checking, have we actually already collected this upgrade? So if not in, so if not n in collected upgrades, we are going to pass. So if we have a prerequisite, we want to make sure that we've actually collected it. And if we haven't, then we're just going to pass on this. Now, in the case of, so if it passes every single condition, then we're finally going to add it to our DB list. So DB list.append. And if there are not any prerequisites, we are also going to append it. So dblist.append. So now we are going to be checking if we've actually successfully added anything into our list. So if dblist.size is greater than 0, we're going to do var random item equals dblist.pickRandom. So it's just going to pick a random item that is valid. And then we are going to be doing a upgrade options dot append random item. And then we're just going to return it. Return random item. Now, in the case that there is nothing to return, we're just going to be doing an else return null. And this would give us back and then it would just default to giving us a food item, since that's the default. Now, where do we want to call this? I'm just going to quickly check because there's a lot going on at the moment. So we want to call this via level up when we are creating our children. So this would be a option choice dot item equals get random item. And that works pretty well. The other thing we need to do though is go to our upgrade character. And we are just going to be doing a, first of all, when we select an option, we just want to clear the array of any options in there, so it's good for next time. And then we want to track what we've actually collected. So upgrades.append upgrade. Okay, so a bit confusing, but now hopefully when we play, I'm going to increase my experience gem to 20 just to showcase the functionality. But when we enter that, we should have, so we've got Ice Spear level 1, we've got 2 food, and we're not showing Ice Spear level 2 because it requires level 1 to already be collected. So if I click on Ice Spear level 1 now, I'll get Ice Spear level 2 as an option. And that kind of works. And then if we increase that to let's just do 50, for example. If I collected this again, and I just selected food, I've still got level 1 there, I select level 2, and now I don't have any other options to select. That is pretty much the functionality of this in a nutshell to change the item options. Now, the big thing we are going to be doing is adding a lot more variables within the upgrades. And I am not going to get you to type this out. Instead, I have a paste bin in the description below. You want to go to the vamp clone update db upgrade const. So we're just going to click on that, and you're best off scrolling down to the bottom, clicking the copy raw to clipboard button, going back into Godot, and we're just going to completely replace this upgrade function. And you'll see that we have many different upgrades. I'm just going to slowly go through them. So we've got four different upgrades for ice spears. We've got 4 different upgrades for javelins. We've got 4 different upgrades for tornadoes. You can get armor, which is going to reduce the damage we take by an additional point. We've got 4 speed cases where we increase our speed by a bit. We got 4 tomes, which will increase our spells attack side. We've got scrolls, which will make our spells be cast a bit faster, and we have rings to duplicate. And of course we have the food from before that will be acting as our default. So by simply playing, we should have a lot more options. And you'll see right there, we've got armor, we've got speed, we've got tome. So there's just a lot more options available for us. So I'm going to close that, and we are going to continue on with the tutorial. And this is going to be actually making it so these upgrades do something. Because at the moment, they don't do anything. And this is going to be within the upgrade character function. Now, once again, I have another pastebin for us to insert all of the match upgrades. And what you'll see is that this is just going to be a match with a name and just some code of what it does. There's still going to be a lot more that we need to do before we can consider this tutorial done. So I'm just going to copy that and paste this in here. Well, in fact, I'm just going to redo that. This looks all good. And we are going to be looking at what's been selected from bottom up. So the food that we have needs to increase our HP by 20. So it's done there. And then we have this thing called HP equals clamp, HP 0 max HP. So when we increase our HP by 20, we don't want to go past the max HP amount. So I'm going to scroll up to our top and type in variable max HP equals 80. And we're going to control S that. And this is going to be making it so that our food will increase our HP by 20, but it won't go over the max HP limit. The next thing we're going to be doing is additional attacks. So in order to get our additional attacks to work, we are going to be going up to the timeout functions, and we're just going to be doing plus additional attacks for the ice spear with the base ammo, and then plus additional attacks with the tornado base ammo here. And this is how we're going to do our additional attacks. I believe that, yes, we also need to go into our spawn javelin, and where our javelin ammo is, we are going to be doing javelin ammo plus additional attacks so that it just increases our javelin total overall. So we're going to be scrolling down and we're going to call that one done. Now, the spell cooldown, we can do this for the ice spear and for the tornado, but the javelin's going to be done, it's going to be done a little bit of a different way within the javelin, but still, we are going to be going up to our attack timers, and where it has ice spear underscore attack speed, we are going to be doing, I'm just going to get my reference up just to make sure I'm doing this correctly. Alright, we are going to be multiplying this by 1 minus the spell cooldown. And this is just going to be making it so that the attack speed is going to be a little bit quicker every time we increase it. We'll do the javelin later, but we'll consider this done for the moment. The spell size needs to be done within the ice spear, the tornado, and the javelin, so we'll do this later. For our speed here, this is actually already done because we're just directly adjusting our movement speed right there. So I guess that works pretty well. Then we got armor. So this needs to be done on our hurt function. So if I type in hurt, we'll get our hurt box. Now, for armor to work, once again, we don't want the damage taken to be 0. So we're going to clamp it. So we're going to be doing clamp, damage, minus armor. And we're going to be setting the minimum damage taken to 1 and the maximum damage taken to, let's just do 999. And this is going to be how armor works. So let's say I take 2 damage from an enemy, but I have 1 armor. It's going to take 1 damage. If I take 1 damage from an enemy, but I have 3 armor, I'm still going to take 1 damage. That is how the armor is going to work. And now we are at the point where we can actually work on our ice spears and tornadoes and our javelins. So we can actually work on our attacks. So by default, we're going to be setting the level, and this level is going to correspond to attributes when the ice spear, tornado, and javelin spawn. In addition, there's base ammo already included into some of the upgrades. But we're going to be going through all of these, and we're going to be making sure that we are adjusting this match level to match what we need. So by default, I want the ice spear to have 1 HP at the start. Now, I do need to adjust the attack size. And the way we're going to be doing this is we're going to be doing it, it's going to be 0.1 times 1 plus player.spell size. And that's just going to be how we do it. Now, the second level of the upgrade, oh, I copied a little bit too much. So I'm just going to do that right there. So the second version of this upgrade is actually just adding an additional ice spear to be shot. So this is done outside of the ice spear clip, as this is just going to be affecting the individual ice spear. So level 2 should remain the exact same. Level 3, we are letting it pass through a single enemy. Well, we're allowing it to pass through an additional enemy. So if I go down here, ice spears now pass through another enemy and do +3 damage. So I need to also increase this to 8 damage. And then for level 4, we are going to, let me see, level 4, an additional 2 ice spears. Okay, cool. So we can make it the exact same as level 3, and that should work out pretty well. So the attack size is already part of our tween property, which we set a couple episodes ago. So I reckon we're good to go with this one. So we're done with the ice spear. Now for the tornado, I believe it's all fairly similar business. So once again, I can't seem to copy and paste the right stuff. So the second one just shoots out another tornado. The third one, I forget exactly what the third one does. Let me just make sure that I'm doing this correctly. So if we scroll down to the tornado 3, so this is the first tornado, this is the second one. It just creates an additional tornado, reduces the cooldown by 0.5 seconds, and then we want to increase our knockback by 25% for tornado number 4. So this is done on the player script, so we don't need to adjust the tornado at all. For level 4 though, we just need to increase the knockback amount to 125, and that should all be pretty good. Oh, and we have to adjust the attack size, of course. So 1 equals 1 plus player.spell size And I believe that our tween, yeah, so our tween already has the attack size multiplied in here. So I'm just gonna add this all here, and that should be good. Now, our javelin is going to work a little bit differently because we spawn it and it stays within our game. So that works a bit differently, but we're still going to set up the levels first. So the first thing we are going to do is make this only have one path. And if we go into our upgrade DB, let's just see what we have. All right, so we create the javelin. The javelin will now attack an additional enemy per attack, plus 5 damage, plus 20% knockback. Okay, so we need to make some adjustments to our javelin. So I'm just going to copy and paste one, not get the match level this time. Oh, but before we do that, we should actually just do our attack size. So our attack size is once again going to be the 1 plus player dot spell size. Now, for the attack speed, because the attack is actually done on the javelin itself, we're going to be doing the 5 seconds times 1 minus player dot spell cooldown. So that's how we do it there, and I believe that this is all set up to work really well for us. So for level number 2, I believe we're making it so that it has 2 paths. On level number 3, I believe that we're making it have 3 paths. And on level number 4, it's 3 paths again. And then I believe it was plus 5 damage, plus 20% knockback, plus 5 damage, plus 20% knockback. Fantastic. So we'll make that 15, and then I'm going to give that 120 knockback. Now, the only problem is that when we select our upgrades, we need to update the javelin. So we need to call this within our player script every time we upgrade. And so for this to happen, first of all, we're going to be calling the attack script, just to make sure that everything gets refreshed. And we are going to be going back to, let me see, we want to go down to our attack script. I'm just hold down control for that. We're going to go into spawn javelin, and we are going to be having another big loop with our javelin. So we just need to update our javelin as well. So I'm just going to type in a comment, update javelin, and this is just going to be a var get so we need to get a var get javelins equals javelin base dot get children. So this is just going to be an array of all the children, and we're going to just be doing a for loop in them. So for I in get javelins, we are going to be doing a if I dot has method. It's a bit redundant because we're pretty certain it's going to have this method, update javelin, update javelins. We're just going to do I dot update javelin. So now hopefully when we level, we should actually be able to update our javelins, update everything, and you will begin to see the game work as it's intended. I think before we start though, I'm just going to give my player an attack. So we're just going to be doing a upgrade character, and we're going to be upgrading this with an Ice Spear 1. So we're actually going to be starting off with Ice Spear 1. And this should be enough to kind of start off. So you can see right there, because we typed in Ice Spear 1, we start off with an Ice Spear. And if I get that big gem, and I click on my Javelin, and I get my Ice Spear, and maybe I get a ring as well. Well, let's just get a tome. We'll see that it's all kind of working, and we're able to turn ourselves into a bit of a monster. And you'll see that they're going to be a little bit bigger because of the tomes. So let's just see what happens if instead of 50, I give myself 500. And I'm also just going to, instead of Ice Spear 1, I'm going to do this as Javelin 1. So I start off with a fairly small Javelin, but if I upgrade myself, I'm just going to make this really big. I'm going to upgrade the Javelins to do a lot of damage. So we'll do speed, I'm going to do tome. So we can see that the Javelins got upgraded, but only after. So this isn't working exactly how it's meant to. So why the bloody hell did only one of these get the upgrades? Alright, I have worked out what the problem is. This is not upgrade Javelin, this should be update Javelin. Update Javelin. So now, when we run this, I'm just going to select any increase to the size that we can get. Alright, this should be a fairly big Javelin. You can now see that they are all properly updated. Okay, fantastic. I am going to call this a completed tutorial. There's a lot to go through in theory time, but now we almost have a completely functioning game. Hey, just a quick update. I have found a issue with my code. It's with this loop. What we actually want to do when we check for prerequisites is to add a variable called toAdd. We're going to make this equal true, and instead of it adding the item while in the for loop, what we're going to do is we're going to be making if our prerequisite is not in the collected upgrades, we're going to be setting this toAdd to equal false. And then what we're going to do is outside of the for loop, we're going to be doing a if statement. If toAdd is equal to true, then we're going to append the list. This is just going to fix it so that if it has multiple prerequisites, it won't add it multiple times. In our game, we added a database as a global variable, meaning that it can be accessed anywhere. Within this database, we have two constants to help locate icons, and then the upgrade constant, which is set as a dictionary variable. You can think of the upgrade constant being similar to a filing cabinet, the first layer being a folder within the cabinet, and the second layer being a piece of paper within the folder. In our item option scene, we use this data by replacing the name, description, level, and icon with whatever the item variable is set to. So we go through our filing cabinet, upgrade db.upgrades, we get the folder we need, item, and then we finally get the information with whatever the final piece of data is. Now, the item is set within a player function called getRandomItem. And what this does is choose a random eligible item from our filing cabinet, itemdb.upgrades. We decide eligibility by doing the following. First of all, we check if we already have collected it by looking at the collected upgrades array. Next, we check if it's already an option within our upgrade options. This is done by checking the upgrade options array. The next thing we do is exclude anything within the upgrade list that has the type of item. And then we check the prerequisites of the upgrade. If there aren't any, we just add it to the DB list array. If there are prerequisites, then we go through them and we check if we don't have any of them collected within our collected upgrades array. If we are missing one, we don't add the item. If we have all the prerequisites, then we add it to the DB list. Finally, we have gone through the entire list of upgrades. We pick a random upgrade from the list and add it to the item, and add the item to the upgrade options array, so when we run this function again, we know to exclude it. And if our list is empty, we just return a null. This is fine because in our item options, we just make the item equal food if the item is null. The return value is assigned to our item options.item, which is added as a child to our upgrade options UI component. Since we add 3 of these item options as children, we should have 3 different items to choose from, or food. When the player selects an option, the item is used as an argument in the player's upgrade character function, where there's a big match statement to determine what needs to be done. For the Ice Spear and Tornado, this is only going to impact future attacks, but because Javelins are only spawned once, they need to be manually updated. This is done by calling the attack function, which then calls the spawn javelin function, which will then go through each of the javelins within the javelin base and call their update javelin function, which will look at the stats that the javelin should have. The upgrades work differently based on what is selected. Sometimes what needs to be upgraded in the player script, like the additional attacks from the ring, or the tornado attack speed, which is reduced by a negative 0.5 seconds. Alternatively, the variables are transferred into the attacks ready function that each of the weapons have, and they will do different things based on how we have set up the levels. At the very end, we clear our upgrade options array to not exclude unselected items for the next time we level up. We then add the upgrade to our collected upgrades array to ensure that we exclude that item from showing up again, and to also let it be tracked for prerequisites for future items.